This time I'll call the August 10th, 2023 meeting to order for the Dickinson County Commission. Would you please stand and join in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do not have anything to add to our printed agenda, so I will move that we approve the agenda as printed.
I'll second it.
We have the motion and the second for approval of the agenda. Any discussion or question from the commission? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. The consent agenda includes the minutes of the August 3rd meeting, also the expenditures of $238,531.10, the security wire of $4,293, hand checks of $415.67.
I move to approve the consent agenda. Second it.
We have the motion. We have the second for approval of the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Commission comments, Ron?
Yes, I did spend a little bit of time yesterday afternoon at the Juvenile Detention Center in Junction City. Things are working well. And unfortunately, there's plenty of folks that want to use the facility. So we have a little work on law enforcement, I guess. So, but other than that, it's going well.
Okay, Craig?
I have nothing.
Okay, and I don't have anything to add. So we'll go on to the next portion. We do not have any petitions or proclamations today, but this is the opportunity for public comments. And so if there is anyone that would want to make a comment on something that is not on the agenda, this would be your opportunity to do so online or in person. So typically we keep those at 3 minutes or less. If there's someone that represents a group and speaks on behalf of the group, sometimes that's helpful as far as the time is concerned. Or if some point has been made by another individual, isn't always really necessary to have the repetition of repeating the same thing. But if there's something that maybe someone left out or that you'd like to bring up or emphasize, this would be your opportunity. So if there is anyone here that would want to speak at this time, this would be opportunity to do so. Step up to the podium, give your name, your address, and what your concern is.
Good morning. I am Kay Hoffman. I live at 1363 1100 Avenue in Hope, Kansas. I know I've reached out to each of you before to express my concern about the possibility of the industrial wind turbines that may take over our farming community. But after having worked at the Save Dickinson County booth at the fair, it became very apparent that there is a huge divide in our county already. Those that are getting money, that have signed their contracts to have them on their land, those of us that have had no choice in the matter at all, but are sitting ducks out there with them possibility of surrounding our farm. And then the third group that I was not aware of, but there are a lot of people in Dickinson County that had no idea this was even coming. The majority of those people were from the Enterprise Chapman area, and they understood it was not going to affect them at all, but it could. After the parade, in which we had an anti-wind farm float, people came to Sterl Hall looking for our booth and asking what they could do or what they could do to help us protest these wind turbines. And the stories we heard, people are afraid to put signs saying they are against the wind farms in their yards due to the fact that they are afraid of what their neighbors will say to them, or that the consequences of their neighbors would be. That's not right, to live in fear out there in the middle of nowhere. Choose to live out there. The few that were happy to see them come to our county happen to be the ones that have signed contracts. But some of those that signed contracts that we visited with about said they were one of the, if we can't beat them, join them group. And by that, I mean, I could list a whole lot of people that had, and I'll come to them, had them sign, because if you don't sign, we'll go right across your property line and your neighbor will get this money and you won't when you could have. This is what it boils down to. Those that are getting the money, including whatever NL has promised the county, and those of us have had no choice in the benefits that our neighbors will get. Why should our county be asked to shoulder the burden and destroy our farms and landscape for people in cities and states that are not stepping up to take care of this themselves. My husband has been a soil conservation and dirt contractor in Marion and Dickinson County for over 50 years. Monday, he was called by a longtime customer in Marion County that he wanted to build a new pond. Bob went down there, got in the truck with the customer to go look at the area where he wanted the pond built. Now, mind you, my husband is deaf and wears hearing aids, and anybody who knows him knows he can hardly hear anything. When they got to the site for the new pond, they opened up the doors, and Bob could even hear the grinding noise that the turbine was making. The customer advised him he needed to get used to this if he has one closed, because that turbine makes that noise 100% of the time when the blades are turning. I think whoever went to Marion County to listen to the wind turbines down there needs to go back and sit by some of the other ones. There are so many cons besides the sound, but due to the time that I have, I'm only going
I was going to say, yeah, about a minute.
Yeah, I'm only going to address that, but I urge you as our elected commissioners to drive your county, listen to those of us who will be affected in a negative way. Consider the money that fuels this foreign company is not what it should be about. Consider the amount of fossil fuels it will take to get these running and keep them running. Consider that all the electricity they generate will not go here in our beautiful county, but they will go to other cities and states far from here. Consider what the landscape will look like after these have served our purpose. Consider what will happen if a blade would break and ruin the ground of an innocent farmer that just happens to live across from one of these. Consider do we have enough firefighters to fight the fire should one catch on fire? Consider the cost of our electricity that will increase to get the transmission lines for this to be set out of our county and our state. Consider if we really want to be an industrial county or stay a farming community. So many things, but most of all, please take time to check and double check our zoning regulations and make sure that they are strong enough to protect the people that could be harmed by these industrial wind towers. Listen to the people in this county that have voted for you to represent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would there be anyone else that would want to comment? And I know sometimes people show up. Yes. And so what you'd need to do is step up to the podium and state your name and address and such. And I realize some maybe are here just to kind of show support or they're concerned and just want to be aware of what's going on. So, but yes, please go ahead.
My name is Kara Crane. I live at 2194 2500 Avenue, Chapman. And I wasn't prepared to speak, so I'm a little nervous. I'm not a public speaker. I went to Oklahoma a year and a half ago for my aunt's 90th birthday party. My mom's from Oklahoma. I had been down there for a while, and after driving down there, I was just sickened by what I saw. Those wind turbines have taken over. They've destroyed the landscape. I've never seen Oklahoma look so ugly, and just driving, it just saddened me. And even in the community my mom grew up in, the people, my aunt has them all surrounding her house. And yes, you can hear them. Yes, they're just annoying her whole family now that they're surrounding them. Wishes they weren't there. I mean, they talk negatively about them. They're not happy they're there. And my fear is once they're there, how do you get back to your beautiful landscape that you've given away? You know, we're blessed with beauty here in this county. I drive, all around it, and it's like, we absolutely have a beautiful county. And I just hate to see it destroyed. I came back from there and I was determined. I do not want those in our county at all. And I will fight to keep those out of our county because I see what they did down there. That, and then I also want to say, I worked at the booth at the fair. We were in a very inconspicuous place because we signed up late. I don't know, but so we didn't get much traffic, but the traffic we did get was from people saying we had no idea these were coming in. And once they know that they're coming in, they don't want them. The majority of the people that came through were like, we don't want these in our county. So I hope you consider that a lot of people don't even know that they're coming in and that those we talk to don't want them. So I just want you to think about that. So anyway, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Oops.
Morning. Kent Rock, 940 Lark Road, Hope. I'd like to spin a few positive comments. I think you guys have probably been inundated with the other side, and I'd just like to read a little note we wrote. I'm a third generation landowner farmer. My wife and I grew our three children on the farm, 2 sons and a daughter. And I guess my dream is to have that to be a fourth generation farm. We slowly acquired the land we owned by borrowing the money along with high interest rates. And if there's any farmers in the room, they know we scrimped and saved for years to make those land payments. Anybody involved in agriculture has to know this is a brutal, stressful way to make a living. And to make the point, research the average age of farmers today, 57 and a half years old. So what that tells me, there's not enough profit, too much risk for young farmers to come back and start in the business. And to go to the project, it's an excellent opportunity that will provide stable income to struggling family farms. The stable income from lease payments and wind turbines will be welcomed by all farmers in this project. And the lease landowners are accused of being greedy, selfish, thinking of themselves people. And I guess I would say that the anti-wind group, it's hard to debate them. First of all, we've had threatening letters sent to us. They block us from their Facebook page, and they won't allow us into the meetings. And why is that? I guess my idea is, are they afraid somebody with some different ideas that might be truthful might destroy the agenda? As for Enel, they have come up with easy to read leases, encouraged attorneys to examine them, and they even offered to pay our attorney fees. Last week, Enel held a dinner meeting at Hope with the leased landowners present. There was well over 100 people there. And much information was shared about the construction and the timetable of construction. Many of the top officials were present and pretty ordinary people, easy to converse with. I'd like to talk about the local economy. If and when that project gets started, there'll be 200 to 250 workers on the project at any one time. And I'm thinking of the benefits. I'm thinking of hotels, RV parks, restaurants, grocery stores, and gas stations will benefit greatly. There's a grocery store to the north here that we talked to one of the owners, and he says the Tampa Wind project, they had a standing order every morning of goods that picked up from that store. It was a very excellent opportunity for them. And they also hire a local person that is briefed daily on problems between the landowners and Enel. And David Mueller was that person down on that project. And then after completion, during the 10-year tax abatement period, they provide dollars that are free will, over and above anything they have to do to local towns, schools, and any other needs the local community needs. And anybody that doubts that, see what they've already contributed down there. And the threat that the anti-wind people make, that our people are going to move away in droves. Well, I think that's already happened. They're already moving away.
And you might kind of wrap it up in a minute or so in case other.
It sure seems that families would be attracted back. Look at the once dying town of Tampa. It's growing again. In fact, there's people that say it's thriving. So and then after the tax abatement period's over, we all know that the property tax dollars will be incredible. And if you doubt that, check the counties that have these projects in them. They're flush with cash. So I think, and then possibility that might lower our property tax rate. So thank you.
I would like to.
Yes, please step up.
I'm coming at this from a different.
And if you give your name and address.
Here in Stripline, 122 East 3rd Avenue, Hope, Kansas. I'm not a farmer, I'm a homeowner. Things that I thought about with this is the fact of what's coming. I'm a futuristic person. I look down the line to see what could happen in the future. What I come up with is we're talking about wind turbine farms now. Later, we could be, if this doesn't take place, later we could be talking about a nuclear plant somewhere close to the vicinity. Okay, that's one option. The other option is farmers selling to China, which is still happening. And it's, to me, I know what some of these people are saying about the change of the look of the land. But it has to be something. This is going to happen because we're having a problem with electricity. So something's got to happen. Something's got to take place. And it's going to be looking at the pros and cons on both sides and deciding what we're looking at now or what are we looking at 15, 20 years from now or sooner. So my point is we've got a plant right now that is 50 to 60 years old in St. Mary's, run by coal. And that's where we get our electricity right now. And the state of Wyoming is our source of coal. Seems fair that we should be stepping up and taking some of the responsibility from them. I don't know how long they can continue on with their coal plants. I don't know what their supply is. I've heard it's not, that great. But farmers do own their own property. And as Kent expressed, it's rough. It's really rough. And I think that people that don't farm don't realize what they go through. But I think if I had a choice between a wind farm and a nuclear plant, or having China buy up our land and heaven only knows what they're going to do with it, I'm choosing the windmills. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Behind you, Julia. Or Julia, go ahead.
Yes, I'm Julie Brand. I'm at 397 Oak Road at Hope. And just to set the record straight, we had 6 members that were signed up at I believe they were all signed up, or at our first meeting at Hope at the Ladies Lounge, and they were welcomed in. Anybody can come to our meetings. Phil Rock, which is Kent's son, was at our meeting, and he stayed the whole time, and nobody bothered him or anything. Everybody is invited and welcome to come to our meetings.
And your group is?
Save Dickinson County Group. Basically, our main mission is to let people know so they have a voice, so that they can tell you what they think. And as far as negative things being said, we've been called a KKK and a hate group. So, it goes both ways. And we're just coming in the name of the Lord and in God's armor of power. And we are all for protecting all citizens, their health, well-being, and their safety. And we do have a beautiful county, and we have wonderful citizens. We're proud of it, and we want no harm to anybody. And so I just want to set the record straight that our facts that we have accumulated are documented facts. And Philip came to our meeting where Representative Carrie Barth spoke. And so the next meeting, we'll have a presentation by Mike Thompson, which was a meteorologist for years, and he has a climate He's an expert in the field. He knows about solar and he knows about wind, and anybody can come to that meeting. They're welcome. It's the Abilene Library. And it's an open place. It's a public place. So it's not a debate. It's a presentation. And it's to inform people of the facts. And we welcome you to come. And as far as our booth, that's the only booth we could get. And so people were coming in, signing petitions and didn't know about it and were shocked. And so we were just there helping people to find out. So if you have any questions, I'm willing to answer them. I'm here to help anybody that wants help. I'm here to help the commissioners. We have a presentation. This is Senator Mike Thompson, and it's an excellent presentation that I would really like for the commissioners to see. And we invite you to view that video and give us the pros and cons. And it's documented information, it's facts. So I'm available. I'm not hiding. Our group isn't hiding, and it's growing by leaps and bounds. So thank you for your time and thank you for all your hard work.
Okay, thank you. There is someone in the third row behind you, sir, and then.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mary Lynn Rock, 940 Clark Road, Hope. And to what Julie said, on their website, it says members only are invited to their meetings. I'd like to correct that. And nowhere in the Bible does it say wind turbines are evil. But so far, I'll move on. I would like to address the issue of the wind turbine blade recyclability. A common complaint and cry among those that are against wind turbines is turbines is that because the blades are constructed of fiberglass and thus will not biodegrade and are not directly recyclable, we should not construct wind turbines. Using this same logic, we should also then ban the further production of pleasure boats, motor yachts, back boats, ski boats, carnival rides, amusement parks, hot tubs, jacuzzis, and all vehicles with fiber reinforced plastic bottom panels, window glass, fiberglass insulation, as well as all polyvinyl building products such as, but not limited to, siding, gutters, windows, decking, fencing, and both interior and exterior trimming. Should we go ahead and ban these products I just mentioned? Just a thought.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And, one thing that's been mentioned, I appreciate, because we're all neighbors and live in the county and such. And, the civility part is important because that's what we're interested as a commission is the presentation of facts. And, having said that, I know it also stirs the emotions of people on both sides and heard of that in other counties. And so, I think it is something where it has to be an intentional effort to try to simmer down or keep the emotion at an area that we can have discussions and get the facts. And so I appreciate the approach that all of you are using. Okay, sir, you had your hand up earlier.
I'm Roger Beecham. I live at 312 North Cedar, Hope, Kansas. And as I listened to the comments today, I've heard about our landscape. I've heard about things that's negative against this. For 50 years, we've used resources from Wyoming. We never thought about their landscape. It's all about responsibility. Their landscape was sacrificed to supply electricity across the nation. And we have enjoyed that for a half a century. And so what if we supply electricity to Chicago or wherever with these land or with these wind mills? It's for the good of the nation. We've had blackouts in the last 3 or 4 years where Woodbine was shut off for a few hours. Harrington was shut off for a few hours because we couldn't keep up with the demand with the present system we have. And since that time, they've added charging stations for electric cars along I-70, even here in Abilene, and added to that demand to the system we have. So I don't see where the system we have, it's going to last. And I, for one, support the wind farms because they do not destroy any land. They are an object that you have to look at. But they're not just for a positive for Dickinson County, they're for a positive for, who knows, Southwest Kansas, Oklahoma, the North. And that's our responsibility as Americans. We're all Americans. And that's all I know.
Thank you.
I want you to stand here just for a minute, Roger, and I want to give recognition to you, a Vietnam veteran, served in Pleiku, Vietnam, went through the most horrific firefight you could imagine, and I'm glad you're here today. But I'm glad you're here to allow all of us to speak freedom.
Yeah.
You fought for it. I thank you.
And I thank you for your work and your time.
Thank you for your service.
Just have someone at the back. Go ahead, please.
I'll let you go first. My name is Deborah Deal Nelson. I live at 2042 Rain Road, Chapman, Kansas. I'm not going to speak from notes today. I'm going to speak from the heart. My family's been in this county for 145 years, 7th generation farmer. We have been in soil conservation the entire time. What I find terrifying about this, you can hear the emotion in everybody's voice. There are those who have the ability to benefit from this. There are those whose livelihoods, their visual aesthetics, maybe even their health can be affected by the development of an industrial wind turbine farm. Let me be clear, I am absolutely for green energy. If you want to put up a windmill to fill a tank in your pasture, go for it. If you want to use a solar pump to do it, go for it. If you want to put windmills in series on top of your machine shed to have a battery inside and power your farm off of that, you go for it. But my personal opinion is that we have got to remove the emotion from this and look at it from a data-based viewpoint. I've tried researching this in the last week since I became aware of this problem. And yeah, there is most of this county who is not aware of it. So if you think you have received all of the voices, you haven't even begun. This is an extremely divisive idea because it will irreparably and irrevocably change the landscape of this county. And it is your responsibility, sir, and your responsibility, sir, to do your due diligence and to look at all of the facts, the risks and the benefits before you make a decision. And there are risks to this. Yes, we can generate electricity, but yes, there are negatives to wind energy. They're proposing 660-foot tall wind turbines. The ones in Tampa are half that size. To put it in perspective, this is half the height of the Empire State Building. You will hear these from a considerable distance on just the decibel level of the wind turbine. But what you also have to consider is the infrasound that will come off of these that can travel as far as 7 miles and can penetrate through structures. It can have health detriments. People have vestibular cochlear issues. It can cause neurological issues, sleep disturbances, anxiety. It is real. It also affects the wildlife in the area. These things, not only from the infrasound, but also from the impact We will lose birds, we will lose bats, all of which are beneficial to our agricultural community. Then you have to look at the leading edge epoxy erosion that can contaminate the soil, not just shards of fiberglass if these things fail, but also the leading edge epoxy erosion that's affected by water, hail, ice, wind. Why do they want to build these that tall and double the size of them? Because they can, for a lesser cost, generate more energy with a smaller gearbox. But that shear force on the outside and the speed of those turbines is going to be multiplied. You're going to get more erosion. 33% of these epoxies are bisphenol A, a known carcinogen. There are WHO reports as to how much of this contamination you should have in your soil and in your water before it affects your health. You gentlemen have an obligation to know all of the facts and the risks before you make a decision. And if you don't want the burden of that on you, then this should be put to a vote before the county, before an industrial-sized wind turbine farm is built in Dickinson County. Everybody here loves this county, and it is distressing to me to see how families are dividing, friends aren't speaking to each other. This is an evil that cannot be allowed to progress through the county. We all should approach this as logical, look at the data, look at the facts, weigh the risks and the benefits, know your information before you make any decisions, and don't let anybody rush you into this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there others in the room that would want to make a comment? Yes,
I just wanted to mention, she mentioned.
and your name, please, and address.
Yes, Susan Alexander, 206 Northfield Road, Solomon, Kansas. I'm on the Saline-Dickinson County line, so I'm going to face it from both directions. I teach exercise and I teach aquasize to keep people healthy mentally, for the social part of it, and physically for the body part. And after going through a lot of facts about the wind turbines, it is very detrimental as far as physical. It causes a lot of nervous problems, mental. It causes mental problems, neurological, the blinking of the lights, the sound, the rhythm, all the time. This grinds on people. Anybody that has to live by them can tell you this. And these are things, I work hard to keep people healthy. And this is some of the problems that I'm digging up as I go through all the information, is that it's not healthy. And then what do we put in place? You know, I'm not here. We don't have farmland. We just live next to a lot of farmland. But I just want you to consider all the facts. And that's all I really wanted to say, is that it does affect people in many other ways. So thank you.
I'm Mary Fleard, 2210 2500 Avenue, Chapman. I have a whole bunch of questions that I'd like y'all to think about. Does this, if you decide on it, does this reclassify farmland to industrial, commercial property? If so, what is the impact on land ownership then? Will there be higher taxes for these people? Because it'll be commercial instead of ag land. Is the property owner responsible for any damages caused to neighboring farms by wind turbines? The farmer, because there's a lot of contracts in this industry that when you sign that contract with the wind farm, you're responsible for any damages to your neighbors. So if that thing catches on fire, sorry, we don't have fire trucks that reach that, and it catches on fire,
with our winds, you have wildfires. Who's going to be responsible for that? According to many in the industry, the landowner is. So I want to know who thinks the gains that they will get from leasing the land to these people are worth that. Do they think it's enough to cover that if it burns down a town? What happens when the wind turbines are retired? Well, she addressed that the nacelles, the wind turbines, the wings are not biodegradable. There are hundreds and hundreds of acres of these nacelles where they're just piling them up because they do not biodegrade. They are harmful to the environment, both in the ground and in the air, because like the other lady says, they do disintegrate while in the air. And what does that do to the farmland? Then it's contaminated, right? So would you ever be able to safely use that farmland again? And for those who are not aware, wind turbines are initially ran off of electricity. They have to draw power to turn. And if we're using coal here, right, then that's where it's coming from initially anyway. Wind turbines need fossil fuels for seals, for lubricants, for many of the parts within them. So you have to consider, how is that helping the green energy cause at all? Because you're still using everything. You're actually using more than you would if you just stuck with what we're already using. Let's see. And the environmental impacts also with the animals, we already know about that. It messes up their migrations. So then you're going to have less hunting. You're going to have less animals taking care of predators. You may have more predators because of that. You will have birds die by the hundreds and thousands with these things, and they get thrown off either by wind impact or because the sound makes them run into it and everything else. How that affects us is because think of how much the birds affect our environment. If you do not have the birds, if you have a decrease in the population, you're going to have an increase in insects. It's a vicious cycle. And there are islands that were bare to where you bring in a couple of birds with a couple of trees, and then next thing you know, that entire island is just covered in trees because the birds do that. They carry the seeds. They control pests. They control insects that carry malaria. They talk about malaria is on the rise in this nation. Do you want more insects here? Do you want more of the ticks? Do you want more of the mosquitoes that carry these diseases? And also, are there town hall meetings planned to distribute this information to the people? Because, like a lot of people are saying here, there's not enough people to make a educated vote on this, of what the people want, not necessarily what a few want or what might be good tax dollars for the county eventually. What's the long-term effect compared to the little bit you're going to get? So I want to know if there's going to be a town hall meeting or multiple town hall meetings, and if there's actually going to be a vote to where the people in this county get to vote, get to have a say. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there some others that, I thought maybe everything had been said that needs to be said, but yes. Go ahead.
Well, my name is Gerald Riffle. I've been a resident of Suffolk County for 87 years. I support the wind farms. I see all of our energy needs coming in from other counties and other states. Those people endure hardships, I guess that's some of our fear. And I think that we could furnish some of the energy back to other counties. I'd be in favor of that.
And Gerald, what was your address?
1303 Northwest 5th Street, Abilene.
Thank you. Yes.
Diane Miller, 1601 Jayhawk, Abilene.
hope everyone's done because I want to change the subject. I have a couple of things to ask about. I'm disappointed in the county website. I'd like some more information on the county website. I went recently to look for meeting agendas and minutes and didn't find anything yet posted for July. So it's not quite current. When you provide budget documents this year, I'd like the revenue section included, not just the expense section, for more transparency. And when it comes to the sales tax question, Mr. Roller, I appreciate your stance and your comments about staying out of people's pockets. I'm under the understanding that there's been a grant application that would include money for radios. And if the sales tax appears on the ballot or goes into effect, would that impact the chances of getting this grant? And it also includes money for the city's industrial development complex. And then on the sales tax question, people need to know that it isn't just for radios. And I think that's the only thing that's been advertised, but it's pretty broad, and it will allow for purchase of equipment and even vehicles. And I don't know that is out there for people to understand that. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have looked into looking at some other websites as far as just to see what could be made available that may give just a little bit easier to sort through. And Diane had reached out to me and I passed that information on a few weeks ago. And then, having said that, there's a few options out there and a lot to consider, but that's one thing we are gathering some information on. Okay, is there someone else on that subject or the other, or something we haven't touched on yet? This would be your opportunity. I know the newspaper from time to time has had some information on this, and they are the county newspaper official publication, but I also know that doesn't always reach out to the entire county. So, this is part of the process of getting the word out, and there will be ongoing discussions and information on this. So, okay.
When are you to decide this by?
So there isn't a specific deadline. We have not had an official application, although, Enola is reaching out and has people that have signed contracts, but it has to go before planning and zoning. And so just the timeline, it probably would not even come up this year. But, having said that, eventually it will, likely, unless they change their mind.
Right. And part of the process is that anybody within the scope of the area would receive a notification of the public hearings that will take place. So now, as to your question about the public voting on it, the state of Kansas has tasked that responsibility back to counties. And that's why we have a planning and zoning board who make a recommendation to the county commission. They can put conditions upon the permit, and then the county commission also would review that. So ultimately, it's back to the county commission for that responsibility.
Okay. Thank you. So we're through with the public comments, and thank you all for coming here. And we have public comments every week. On the agenda, sometimes we do not have anyone in the room other than the commission and staff. But the next item we have is report of county officers, and all of you are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. And then again, if you have other things to do, we understand you may want to leave.
Oh, everyone.
So our county administrator, Janelle Dockendorf, at this time will give us her report.
Commissioners, as staff talked about during the study session, one thing that I think is going to be very good moving forward was some of the disaster training that several staff members participated in. It was
Just keep going. We can hear you.
It was an Orion training that the state of Kansas had purchased software and an app that will be used during disasters. And I think the benefit is going to be, to our first responders, to our Highway, Road and Bridge Department, to environmental services, to our emergency manager as they go out. So they can take pictures, they can take video. There is the ability to measure things, upload it to a program real time, and then also the state sees it. So hopefully, knock on wood, that we don't have any more disasters coming, that it streamlines some of those processes. Because as you know, that has taken us a long time in the past. And if we can make that go a little bit smoother, that's much appreciated. And then we can also make sure that townships, cities, whatnot know about this as well. The other thing, as Marcus had reported, we are preparing for a surplus property sale. So I'll have a resolution for you with that. And there's several items on there, including some vehicles. Just a reminder, the transfer station will not be accepting trash starting the week of the 21st of August. Now because we're doing some concrete repairs out there, so, and possibly down for 3 to 4 weeks, but citizens can still bring out grass, limbs, tree branches, same thing to now, household hazardous waste, metal, e-waste, and things like that. So, and we've made arrangements for trash to be, they can take it to Geary County if they so choose, for our haulers. And then, as Martin had reported, the bridge at 1060 1900 Avenue is now open. It's at a 3-ton weight limit. It is signed or posted that way. And we're waiting on contractors to get back with us to perform the necessary repairs and get it back open to a 6-ton weight limit. So that's all I would have at this point, unless you have any questions for me.
Okay, thank you. And Doug Thompson had something with the courts to do. And and we did not have any information from him to consider anyway at this meeting. So the next thing is our notices and communications. And we did receive a few letters and comments. One saying they're in favor of the wind farm coming to Dickson County. And then we had another from the Save Dickson County group that was raising the concerns and some of the questions that they wanted us to be aware of. And so we have that on file and also for consideration. The next item is resolutions, which we do not have any. So we're going to go from unfinished business on to other business. And Janelle, if you'd give us the information on this, this is a request for a letter of support from the Abilene Smoky Valley Railroad for a grant application that they have.
Yes, Ross Bowling had reached out to the county and asked for some support with a grant application that they are applying through the Sunderland Foundation. And as we all know, the Smoky Valley Railroad brings in a great deal of tourists to the county, and we do appreciate all the hard work. So it's going to assist with some funding that they've identified that they need, and that is for track and terminal infrastructure, to support the current operations. They need ties, switch replacements, ramp and leveling, road crossing replacements. They also would like to have some monies to put towards their steam engine. And as you know, it's a large draw. So, and they're trying to plan for the future with this. So they had asked that we would draft a letter of support so they could apply to the Sunderland Foundation. And then also they are going to be applying to KDOT for a cost share program as well. So I've drafted a letter for you to sign if you so choose to support this request.
Okay. Is there a comment or any question from the commission?
They do have a deadline that they'd like to have it turned back to them by tomorrow.
I would go ahead and make the motion that we sign this letter of support for the Abilene Smoky Valley Railroad grant application.
I'll second it.
We have the motion, we have the second. Any other discussion or question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next item we have is a conditional use permit, PC 23-02. Tim, if you would give us, you've given us a summary already in the work study session, but for the record of our meeting, if you'd please do that at this time too.
All right. This is a request on behalf of Helen Stevens. It's Patrick Irwin is the representative from Skyward Land Services, and he's the applicant. And on July 20th, the Planning Commission received public comment with regard to the placement of a proposed 145-foot self-supporting telecommunications tower with an 8-foot lightning rod at the request of Patrick Irwin of Skyward Land Services on behalf of Helen Stevens. This would be a monopole tower with no guy wires for support. This tower will fall below the 200-foot height required for FAA safety lighting. The tower will meet or exceed setback requirements from the property lines and placed within a leased area of 75 by 75 foot. No comments, with the exception of the applicant and applicant's agent, were received from the public regarding this case. A unanimous vote of 5-0. The Planning Commission is recommending approval of the conditional use permit CUP 23-02 with the condition that all final and FAA and FCC approvals must be submitted prior to a building permit being issued. I would say that there is a residential structure on the property, and it is located well south of where this proposed lease area is going to be located. And with that, I'll turn it over to you all and have any questions for myself or the applicant.
Okay, I don't have any questions.
I'm just reading through here, the Tillman, Tilly, that's the one we're talking about here.
Yes.
Lies with it.
Yes.
Lafayette zoning code, county zoning code. Okay.
What page are you looking at?
That was a typographical error.
Okay.
Apologize for that.
Okay. So it should be Dickinson County.
Yes. Apologies.
Be a thing, I don't read things.
You read it very thoroughly.
I'm not done yet.
Typically based on currently the FCC does oversee all regulatory requirements for cell tower approvals, and municipalities really are limited to regulating just the general safety requirements for structure and setbacks.
Well, since it's in the city of Solomon, then it's our power to approve.
It's outside.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Outside.
Yeah.
And City of Solomon was also notified.
Yeah.
Weird.
Are there other questions on this? And so the conditions and everything are understood and in place, and we have a recommendation from planning and zoning on this that was unanimous. there a motion to approve this CUP, or Craig, do you still need a little more time?
No, I'll second the motion.
Okay,
I'll make the motion.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it said, access to it's from where, Tim? I can't see it on, I'm maybe not looking at the right place.
It's directly off the road to the east. It's an existing entrance.
Going into the Chuck Henry's?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
I see Chuck Henry's there. Okay.
A letter off the printer for me.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all I wanted.
okay, so we had them, I want to make sure we got this. Additional use permit 23-02.
Correct.
You have the motion for approval,
Thank you.
And I seconded.
and you will second it then?
I seconded for the motion.
Well, it just, just want to have it clear. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We do not have any other items to bring before the commission. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Second it.
We have the motion and the second to adjourn. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We're adjourned.